Hello world! Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida, Reba, Darcy is in the house. We're about to walk into frame. This is me walking into frame today. I am on the bonsai balcony. I thought I would pull up on the table a few of our little pine trees. And where's the thing? Pull up a few. Whoa! Pull up a few of these little pine trees. And we would clean these guys up. I'm seeing that a few of them have a slight bit of hay damage, and some of them have some pretty ratty looking sun damaged needles. Others of them have got some cleanup I could do, while overall I haven't had a chance to really good chance to look at these guys in some time, so it's just a good time to get in here and look and see what we can do. Looking at all of these trees are mame. They are Japanese black pines, and we have bit and folded these trees over the last 2 years. I think most of these guys are trees that we ordered in 2 separate orders. I ordered 10 rounds and 10 rounds of seedlings, and both times those came in little cubes. I mean, they weren't potted. They were just, they were just little rooted cubes, so they were to be potted up immediately when I got them. And there was 2 rounds. One of them came from Florida, and another one came from upstate, like Oregon or Washington. I can't remember which. But the stuff that came from upstate from here was fantastic stock. And yeah, so these are those, and I'm just gonna start. We'll start right here outside. This tree has not been in a bonsai pot for very long, and this year it didn't get its needles reduced because it didn't get its buds cut because it had just gotten repotted. And so this year our job is to basically hang out with this guy and not do a bunch of needle reduction and not do a bunch of bud selection. But this time, but going into next year, we can. What I'm looking at is a lot of burnt tips on this tree, and it does have some nice exposed roots. You can tell by the weight of the pot that it's got a lot of roots down in here. Also, it's bio-gold, and it seems to be back budding nicely here and here. But here's what: all of this stuff that we see coming out here was the weaker part of the tree. This was the branch that came out mid-tree. All of this stuff that we worked is dead. Most of it is dead. And you go, well, all right. So now it looks like we're building a new apex here for sure. Yeah, in deciding what's new. Now here's something else while we're talking on what is and what isn't. Don't mess that up, Patricia. As tempting as it might be, this was the top. This was the apex of the tree. That died. I think that's gone. That's sailed. What we have here is, this is the new leader. This is the new top. And like I mentioned, we got a little bit of cleanup to do here. It's just some spent needles, third year needles. No, yeah, maybe. But then we also were looking at a lot of heat damage. All of these tips are burnt from the 90-degree day, but we're back budding okay, and it seems to be soldering on. But having said that, about 2/3 of all of this stuff that we cut and pretzeled, it all came down. It all came down to a top right here, and that got weak and died with our heat spell. So why am I not thinking about this in terms of, say, maybe a gin? Because wood this small doesn't make much in the way of a gin. What makes a good gin is solid, hard wood. In other words, thyme. Thyme is your ingredient. This was too close to being green to harden off into anything. What we need to make a gin is something that's got some growth rings and some and has some age to it. So that guy just got a fairly major chop, and this is our new top. I'll go with that. I might have could have left a little more, just so we could deadwood this in, but we still can. That took down a lot of the complexity and just cut down a huge amount of this tree. But this is the new leader now. I'll add some wire to this at some stage, and we can do. I didn't bring any wire with me over here. Maybe let this grow out a little more, and this could maybe be well, it has a whole lot of potential, and the trunk down here is really thick and nice, and the base is really nice. So having chopped that, I like it a lot better. Seeing what I have left, I couldn't envision the tree I was going to make. I found that dead wood on top to be distracting because it wasn't going to be a dead wood feature. I already knew that. This is also not long from being green. It's a good time. It's still malleable and foldable and stuff, but I might like to let some of this grow out and be able to bend more of it when I do bend it. So here's what we're going to do there. Having done that, we're going to throw a little bottle gold in there, and I'm going to try to get a couple of lumps settled in there nicely if I can. Oh, I know something I don't have. A little bit. With my tools of trade are around me. I am without some tweezers, which I just saw would have been handy. But I have a poker that'll work. I have three pair of Japanese scissors. One being these stainless scissors, and I have a stainless steel chopstick, which will be handy that I'll have used instead of my poker and or tweezer. And I have these guys, which you just saw me pull these guys out. The reason I use these guys instead of, could almost gotten away with scissors on that trunk because it wasn't super, hard wood at this point. But it had a piece of wire on it. So I just went through there and cut that wire and all. So to finish off with this guy, two things right quick. We have escape roots down here, down in the bottom. I am not going to mess with them. Then I'm going to try to get this guy in there a little bit. There we go. So now I have those two. And for my final trick, we'll give this guy a little slurp of, those are called plugs. I stumbled over my phrasing earlier. When I ordered these 2 batches of 10, they came as plugs. I can cut all of this dead back. I started this video while the crew working outside was at lunch. From the sounds of it, that's about over. So we're in for whatever. We're in for whatever. Yeah, that said it right the first time. All right. I'm not going to cut them all for being long. I'm cutting them all for being. I'm cutting off all our dead ends, all our split ends. This stuff here for it's too long still. That's fine. That'll take care of itself. We cut a lot off. We'll leave those needles alone. And the ones that had, like I'm repeating myself, the ones that had burnt tips, I'm cutting those. That ain't going to get any better. So there. Okay, so that guy got watered. We could actually do this, and then we could move on to another tree. I left the roots at the bottom because they are that little tree's hedge against a big old hot universe. When I set them down, a lot of times my little trees are in trays of substrate, and they will quite often put out an escape root, and those escape roots are very helpful when it comes to helping them hedge against high heat, for instance. All right, so guys, I call it peanut. It is in a wabi-sabi pot that I really like. I think one time when I was looking at it, I could probably tell now. There are finger indentions, whereas soft clay, somebody did this. And when looking at it once, I could see their fingerprints. Also, I can see the brush strokes on this, where they brushed on some, what is it called, silt? When you take some leftover clay and you mix it with water to make it watery, and then you brush that on, so it's not really a glaze, but it kind of leaves the unglazed trees with unglazed pots with slightly softer texture, whereas others kind of feel a little like fine sandpaper. I'm doing the same thing you saw me doing to the other tree. I'm cutting out some of these needles. This is the part where not bringing those tweezers actually kind of caught me out a little. And at this point in the game, I'm not going to waddle in and out of frame to get them. The overall health of this tree has always been strong. It always looked smaller than the rest. It was like the little runt. But at the same time, this tree came with a batch of trees that was kind of ill-fated. It came from Etsy, and I just typed in Japanese black pine seedlings, and I need that light. I'm going to cheat our lighting here a little bit. So I ordered these, and they came from Florida, and I ordered 10. And 2 years later, I'm still mentioning the fact that 9 showed up. And of that 9, a couple of them were questionable, pretty questionable. They looked like they were on their last leg. But I had plans for all of them, and we started bending and folding these little guys up into circus animals straight away. And this little tree had three trunks. So right off the bat, I cut it back to 2 and let it go. But it has always had a fantastic color, and this is the first time anything has ever done anything to it. And what that is it wrecked a few needles, but not many. And this little peanut is, I think I'm going to leave the wire in there. I don't think I am going to weaken this tree by trying to pull that out. Yeah, maybe if I had 100 of these or something, I might go that route and then just let what happens happen. But it's kind of personal. I don't want to weaken this tree. So, in other words, it's already started. I left the wire in there nice and long, and it's already starting to grow around it a little. And if we pull that out, it will weep there, and it will do other stuff. I'm just gonna let it eat it. You just eat it. With every bad needle you cut or remove, you improve the overall color of the tree. Sometimes you think, wow, the color doesn't really look that good, and you pluck 5 dead needles and you go, oh yeah. You were your brain will average those colors. So clean up your the stuff that can go, and then when you look at it, you go, well, it does look pretty good. I just need to clean it up. The trunk on this tree is looking really cool where it's wrapping around and it's starting to squeeze out bigger. I do remember that this tree has better roots than what I can see. It's down in the pot. Also tell this little, yeah, I can also tell, see, I haven't watered it yet. It needs water. I need to water it. But it's heavy. You can tell it's heavier than it used to be. The one I just set down, it's got a lot of, what is that weight? That's root growth. That's filling up that little pot with roots. And I'm gonna say the overall health of this little guy is pretty good. Ooh, easy pat. I love this little tree. This is the one I was saying on the last show. If something were to happen to this tree, that I have very few, I think I said I had less than $20. That's not true. I probably have almost $20 in that little pot, but then that little tree didn't cost me hardly anything, and it has certainly been a pleasure. I would be sad if I lost this guy. I'm sad when I lose any of them. All right, now I want to get that out of there. Clearly, we're going to take the closest. This guy's quite often it gets thumb status. It's the tree that if it's in a video, oh God, I got a rock hanging out in here somehow, some way. And I'm trying to get it out of the tree. Yeah, here we go. This is a boulder. This little tree, if it's in a video, quite oftentimes it'll be the photo. It'll be our good side. I'm seeing a little bit of heat damage, but much less. The needle size has already starting to go down because we did do some candle pruning on this guy earlier in the year. Um, Probably time to go back through and do some bud selection in here, which sounds so inclusive, but usually what that means is we're going to pick some to stay and we're going to pick some to go. It's a little overgrown, but we could make this a show. I don't think I need to do anything. I think the overall color is good. It is showing, I can see some heat damage on last year's needles. But this tree is just doing exactly what we want it to look like. It's fat. It's like python fat, and it's twisted, and it's coming out in between. It's coming out between its wires. That just makes it. It is really a cool looking little Japanese black pine, and the peanut pot. Okay, let me just say this. Let me catch up right quick. This I think came from Eric Schray at Bonsai, which is in San Francisco. But you can find them on YouTube. Bonsai, Eric at Bonsai, and this tree and this tree, those pots came from Elizabeth Crutenden, and she is in the UK, and she makes beautiful bonsai pots, and they are also of a very high quality. She has a good eye. I'm going to get my sweater in there. She has a good eye for design. She makes beautiful pots. And to look underneath these guys, which I'm not going to do right now because I would dump out a lot of cool stuff. But to look underneath there, you can always, her chop is really nice looking. And her dimensions are always nice. And the cuts for the drain holes are always exactly how they need to be, and as many as they need to be, and the size they need to be, and all of the lines of her pottery are just fantastic. Also, on Saturday Night Live, I'm just going to do a little quick branch off right quick. On Saturday Night Live Bonsai last Saturday night, oddly enough, we did a little expose our roots to see what was going on with the air layer on our trident maple. And I was kind of skeptical going in. I had like 30 minutes prepared of what, things that I was going to be talking about while we did all the peeling back of stuff and the removing of all the moss and stuff, and then probably scraping back the bark. I had all this to show. Well, I lost 30 minutes of potential things to talk about when I peeled that back and saw enough roots all the way around it that said, yeah, don't mess with it. So that kind of went a different direction. From then on, I was kind of winging it. And what I did was I just got it good and wet again, and then capped it off on both ends. And while I was doing that, I was talking about other things, like maybe putting a flat surface underneath it, which is what brings me down to Elizabeth Crutenden. She mentioned that putting a flat disc or pie tin or something, which is what people will do to maples to get them to spread out, wouldn't have been necessary on an air layer, because you've got a clean chop there, and those roots are only going to come out of the edge. They're not going to come out of the heartwood in the center. That's not living tissue. It doesn't sprout that way like a carrot or a potato, if you kind of get my drift. But from the edge there, those cambium layers and everything, that area is where it would sprout from, and it's going to tendency, and it's already going to be on its way out. I would also say that can go out and down just as fast, and the thing about the tin is it will keep it spreading. But I hadn't thought about this. What does that do to the sheen or lack thereof? The sheen, if you've got a trunk and you've got this root ball, the sheen is this area right, like here's your trunk, the sheen is this area right here. This is the area that gets neglected when you go back so far and stop. It's usually the sheen that gets neglected, and every couple of years you should remember the last time you went in and done that. I've heard that described as the gut health of the tree. So I don't know what you would be doing to the sheen if you had your tree stapled down to a metal disc. That's my finished thoughts on that. And appreciating a shout out to Elizabeth Crutenden for bringing up the part where, yeah, you wouldn't need to do that on an air layer because they're already by virtue of the way you're doing that. People will do air layers sometimes not to shorten a tree, but just to get a better established, more circular root base. So, yeah. All right, we're going to move on to our next tree. This guy. This is a nice looking tree. It's got a nice looking base. The wiring is sort of so-so by me, but it is doing a good job, and it's doing something that is, I would say, creative and joyful to look at. I like almost everything about this. I wish my wiring job were a little neater, but I had a lot of tree. I had a lot of tree to fold up, and it looks to me like it might have got a little weird, but I still think it's okay. I think this is a good looking tree. I'm going through here and pulling out some of these dead needles that I could readily get to fairly easy. Now, the other thing, the tree looks a little gangly, right? It's probably not quite as impressive as it could be, but we haven't been in this pot too long, and it's still getting situated, and it hasn't really started squeezing out in between this maze of wires yet. And I'll remove some of it, but not all of it. I want that. I want that girdled restriction for it to grow out around and through and stuff, and that probably means removing the stuff that can be, while leaving some of it that's trickier, going to be possibly harmful, leaving it in there. This tree is spread out enough to where I'm able to get to a lot of these with my fingers. But here's the thing. We haven't planted this tree too long, and in keeping with better policies, are trying, when you know better, do better. When you know better, do better. That's just how that works. So in the old days, I have potted, styled, and just gone all guns a-blazing on little trees, only to lose them over it. Make a terrific tree in an hour, and it was really something. But you socked too much out of it and killed it at the same time. So in keeping with that, we didn't do candle cutting this season. We did not do bud thinning at all. So these guys are long and lanky for a black pine. But, black pines can make some long lanky whiskers, and it is a little like that, but I'm not going to mess with that. We're going to also, I could go back and shorten those with the scissors and probably make that look a little, but I don't really see a need to weaken the tree to do that. I think the color on some of these needles tells me that we didn't come away unscathed on this guy. but overall, I would say it's looking pretty good. We're gonna throw a little bit more biogold in here. Its lump is about spent. What is that? Needles? What's a needle? And okay. So we're going to do this. Oh, and the root work on this tree also looks really nice. So here's what I see a lot of potential on this tree. I like all the bends and folds that we have. It looks like a canyon tree. To me, it says canyon tree all day long. I do need. We're gonna let it go right now and let everybody recover a little bit more. So I fed it. I cleaned up some of the dead needles. This is our apex. I'm seeing 3. Hold off. I'm going to reduce these 3 to 2. These 3 up here, there's 3. Just doing that. I'm going to reduce that to 2. But I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to wait until the energy on that tree is a little better, and we'll do it then. Okay. Brings us to the twins. Also, the twins here have twins. These are Japanese black pines. I'm clumsy, and we grew these ourselves. We planted these seeds, and like total dunces, I put 2 seeds in 1 cup, and so that added to our count that time. But this is some of the ones we grew, and these 2 have always grown side by side, and they've always been an informal upright, and so far they haven't made any of the kind of branches that I need to go cutting on, and I haven't wired either one of them. The shape you see is the little dance that they're doing against the wind, with the sun, and to try to probably outmaneuver one another to some extent. But I never separated them. We're just gonna let this little duo roll and see how long we can maintain that. This is sort of a no. This pot was given to me by a friend of mine, and it's deep. It's a little deeper. That's why I selected it for 2 trees, because we're giving them a little deeper pot, but then they're having to split it. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut back. On one hand, I see more heat damage on the underside of this tree, but then I also see where it is already. I see where it's already putting out buds all around those needle losses. So they both seem to be fairly hardy trees. Yeah, there we go. Cleaning up some of our heat damage, cleaning up some of our dead needles, rather than continually pulling on these little trees. I decided I would just cut these brown needles back. The crows seem to be enjoying the day, as they should. What? Oh yeah. Final thought on our trident maple. When I was wrapping that tree back up, I sealed up both ends. It hadn't, I'm doing a live show. I'm just going, okay, we have a lot of roots. We don't want to go on this side. We don't want to go on this side. We don't go on this side. I don't want to go digging in there and seeing how deep they are because I've got roots all the way around, but not a lot. There's enough space to let me know that we have room to grow and I have room to fill up that root ball. But I didn't dig underneath it at all to see if it's more or less once you start digging. So, but here's the deal. What I did at the time was cover it up at the bottom and wrap it really tight and cover it back up at the top. And I just did that the idea was just to go back the way we found it. And then in hindsight, and also, thank you, Paul Krause, for the tips. It occurred to me later, and he also I've got some tips from Paul. And what I've gone back and done was open up the top and cut that plastic that's tightly bound up. So from now on, we're watering that. It has roots. I am not going to be able to guess what's going on in there without looking. So what I've done is I've punched holes around the bottom of where I had it tightly bundled. I just punched little ice pick size holes down there so it can drain. And then I've exposed the top where I had it so tightly bound that nothing was going to get in or out. And I'm thinking I need to do that just a smidge more. I want to open that up. I'm going to continue to use the plastic bag as kind of like a pot lid so that when I water, it'll funnel down in there good. But from now on, we'll be in charge of that water. And I should be able to look on top and see how well we're doing or not. So that was our little final thoughts on that. I gotta say, I'm really excited. Yeah, really excited, I would say, about the prospects on our trident maple. I always really like the foliage. I always really like the bark on that tree. I think we're making the best use, I believe, of its strong points. Also, a couple of y'all said interesting things. Several of you mentioned, hope we get a sprout on the trunk, coming out on the trunk, so that we'll have plenty of chances to resurrect a tree out of that bottom. I think the bottom half has its pluses too. Those pluses being that girth and that bark, both good stuff. The overall problem I had with the tree was the length of it. I thought it was had elongated out without enough happening. It was just like this much tree happening at a slant, with not a lot going on down there. And then up here, I just thought as time goes on, we were going to get more and more topiary looking. Oh, all right, I could clean this up more. In fact, I will. I'll clean this up more. I'm seeing lots of new buds coming out on this guy. Also, I would say both trees are looking, all in all, pretty happy. I can still see this burn on there. We have a fair amount of escape roots from them both. Going to leave that alone. I have replenished the little lumps of biogold, and I'm going to stop digging any minute now. A lot of little ones. I want to get in there later with tweezers. But I think the overall look of the tree, this serves other purposes too. It was a good time to go in and cut off dead needles or cut off burn part. But also, I think I had mentioned that I had been seeing a couple of trees that had woolly aphids, and yeah, that isn't gonna work. So it was a good time to go in there and take a good close look at what was going on with everybody and see what we could do and see if anybody needs any help that way. Good coffee. My coffee is a concoction consisting of cold, I buy a quart bottle of Starbucks in water, espresso shots, and then I mix that, usually about half and half, with Dutch chocolate milk. I don't have to heat anything. I don't have to brew anything. And this is coming from somebody who used to French press chicory and then try to calm that high octane stuff down with whole can cream. Yeah, God, it take 15 minutes, and all the brain cells of me without coffee could possibly muster just to make coffee in the morning. But golly, it was good. But this isn't any of that. This is walk to the refrigerator and go glug glug twice with 2 different containers and go sit back down. I would recommend it. I mean, there's a certain therapy. There is a certain therapy about brewing coffee, and the smell of coffee fills the house. Okay. So yeah, we moved on to this tree. This tree has a lot going for it. Also, when I did a show, the last show where I was talking about our losses, and I said I was noticing a show where there was a table full of small little Japanese black pine trees, and out of the 6, I had 1, scratch that, 2. This was one, and this was the other. So the point was I didn't have a lot of rhyme or reason in there. Some of them I had done quite a bit of work to, and some of them I hadn't done anything to. But one other thing I could see about those trees that I had lost, and we're talking about little tiny mame trees that I had lost during the last 2 heat spells, and even here there's a lot of burnt needles, burnt tips on here, a lot of new buds on here also, and this tree is squeezing out in amongst its wires, and its trunk shape is really nice, and it has some really nice roots going for it. I have a lot to like about this tree, and almost no cleanup work. Did I clean this tree up already and forget about it? Happy. Since last time I looked at this tree, it has really put on. The trunk has gotten a lot thicker, and the roots are doing some pretty cool stuff. So I don't have any weeds to take care of. The new growth here is a really hard, cool green. I've got I've got a plethora of buds coming out of the apex. It's running a little behind the others when it comes time to what would be picking between those. I'll let them, it doesn't look ready to me, I'll let it go. Okay. This is a nice looking little mame tree, and also I can tell it's put on a little weight too. My coffee is getting farther and farther away. Okay, this is one of the latest ones we potted up. And oh, that's helpful and handy. So this got potted up not too long ago, and it's also had a bad case of the teenagerdom, which is, it's in a nice looking, it's in a very attractive, again, Elizabeth Cruchenden bonsai pot, and it has an fairly extensive amount of folding and wiring by us. We did all of this on a show, and this little guy's thriving. I would say there's a lot to love here. I ran a stake through it, and I'm going to redo this moss. There's a little bit. Ooh. Feel free to freeze frame and enlarge, but all of this is just bad to the bone. And we have really big roots escaping from what's left of the plug, which is here. But here's what. Minimum amount of cleanup, minimum amount. Lots of vigorous, new, lush green buds. I'm gonna let go a little longer before I start my my bud selection. Oh yeah, I like that. And the exposed roots I can already see on this guy. I thought I had what I thought was one of my chopsticks running through there is an exposed root. I'm going, holy jeepers. This guy is just fat as it can be. And these other things we can do, oh man, a lot of potential in this tree. A awful lot of really cool potential in this tree. So let's do this. Yeah. What is that? This is the blue bowl of peat moss. The blue bowl of peat moss was standing beside us the other night when we did Saturday Night Live Bonsai. So you may have heard me say something about Lucky earlier. That was when it just occurred to me that I needed a little bit of peat moss, and I had a full bowl. That rather than get too complicated with, I decided to take out to the balcony as is until I figured out, well, you need that somewhere. Don't do anything with that. Don't let that get too far. And here we are. So what are you doing, Pat? I am encouraging more exposed roots from this guy, and it already has some very, very, very cool ones. Man. This is going to be a fantastic, already is, to my way of thinking, a fantastic little mame Japanese black pine, canyon style, really, really twisted to the hilt. And we're starting to see, also, I guess I should mention, those are second year needles that are super long. Those are last year's needles. And what we are seeing come out the shorter needles, if you can see those, hopefully they're not just washed out by the long ones. If you can see those are the buds that came back from our decandling this year. So after we did that, we're already starting to see some shorter. Well, we'll see when they finish pushing out how short they are. But right now the needles on this thing are a little long and gangly still. We've got a little ways to go, but that's not the super exciting part. The super exciting part is just the way this trunk looks, the way the overall health and energy of the tree is. And I intend to do something really cool with this, bring it either around or around and down. But right now it could get a little longer. That would be cooler if I had a little bit more to play with before I start bending that. And it's just pushing out a lot of needles. So I also put a little bit more. I put a little bit more biogold to this guy. All right, one more. I'll get there. Okay, this guy, off the cuff. It is a hot mess. No, it is. It's a hot mess. It's in one of Elizabeth Crutenden's pots. I've got some needles in here to get rid of. Yanking on it. And this little tree has got a lot of wire in it. I don't think it's my most beautiful wiring job, nor would I say, but what we did do is we put some shapes into this tree that are pretty flattering. And at some point, when I will cut a major part of this loose, but not all of it. I don't want it to blow this shape when I cut these wires. I don't want it to be less than this. And I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly sure it would be if I unwired this tree right now. Part of this, it will eat its wires too, and that will give the tree a look of a lot more girth. So there is a lot of this shiny stuff that you can see that's on here. A lot of this stuff, I will be cutting a big part of that away, and I will be taking a big part of this anchor part away. Anchor away, boys. And this is another really nice looking windswept canyon tree. I've got some nice exposed roots here. Hefty, kind of feels solid for the amount of tree we're looking at. Needs a little more cleanup down here. The general health of the tree, I'd say, is good. Throwing stuff everywhere. It needs biogold. Again, we'll dose it up with some more biogold. I wonder. I've got some pretty big wires over here, and I could probably cut those here and relieve the tree easily of a lot of wire, but I'm going to go with what I just said. I really like the shape of this tree, and I'm not going to relax that yet. when I before I repot it at some point. This wire is these two wires. One of them goes down into the root ball, and one of them starts right here. So I'll cut these guys, which means I'll also cut it here, and here, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, which are all still going to be probably pretty accessible. And then that'll just be dropping little half circles off the trunk of this tree. What I don't want to do is to try to unwire this tree that's coiled up, because after they start growing around them and you pull them out, inside that trench a lot of times is damaged. Yeah, and the tree's weaker, and a lot of times you see that the tree is thinner where it kind of flattened out around the wire. So it's not really that strong without the wire. It's kind of leaning on that wire from then on, kind of a thing. So, you know, I had a tree that I wrecked, a tree I really, really liked, and whenever I removed the wire from it, I felt like I'd pretty much wrecked it. And so I'm kind of reluctant to do that again. All I had to do was just lose my phobia about leaving the wires in there when I don't think the tree cares one way or another. A little bit more clear. All right. I want to take this top here and bend it up, but I'm going to also wait until it gets, I can wait until this gets, it's not like it's barked over or anything. It's a nice looking little tree. It's a little long, it takes up a little too much space, but the answer to that is to wait until it gets just a little bit longer so that I can bend it the way it's. I've got a whole piece of wire here hanging out ready to go into play whenever this gets a little longer. Then I can bring this down or cascade it or do any number of things. Also, quit, Pat. Make a decision here. All right. I have made a decision. Then, wow, I love that. That is one of three tops, and this top had 1, 2, 3, 4 buds, and those 4 buds had little buds coming out of the bases of those. So that tree is having a big old what the hell moment just now. Like, what the hell was that, Pat? And I selected a bud site on top and said, well, we're not going to cut. It was a 3, and I cut it here, but there was a bud coming out here, kind of a thing. So, and I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. One of those things where sometimes you think, what am I going to see when I do this? I like that. I thought I would like that, and I like that. All right. That was a piece of spent bio gold. So I'm going to add 2 more pieces of bio gold. We did a little chop to this guy, and we're going to add a little water to this guy. Yeah, that wire is still important. I'm pushing on a wire and watching the tree. Oh, what the hell? We'll go 3. You can have 3. You had your losses today. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Our next drop will most likely be Saturday. I'll probably go out on the balcony and do a drop on Saturday, and then Saturday Night Live, we may or may not do something. I don't have a plan so far, but I bet I'll get one. And I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you. And what we did today was clean up about a half a dozen of our little, more than that, a little over a half a dozen of our little mame Japanese black pines, most of which we ordered on Etsy, but a couple of them we grew from seed. And yeah, that was just a little, removed the little spent needles from heat damage, removed the little dead needles from third-year needledom, although I don't know if these guys have really been here for 3 years, but they had 3 rounds of needles. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'm just gonna waddle over and turn off camera. Here you go. I brought you something. Yeah.